Have you ever felt it? Those quiet moments when your confidence just collapses, seemingly without warning, when all your strength drains away, even though nothing obvious has happened. And then a small voice inside you whispers, "This feeling, 'tis weak." It didn't start with me. It feels like it was planted a long, long time ago, in the way you were raised, in the things you were shown, and maybe even more powerfully, in the things that were missing. Psychology tells us that our very first relationships, especially with our parents, literally wire expectations into our nervous system. So, that heavy weight you're sometimes carrying, it might not be laziness or a simple lack of willpower. It could be an unfinished emotional inheritance, a set of patterns and feelings passed down, asking not to be judged, but to be understood. Now, this isn't about blaming your father or making excuses for anyone's harmful behavior. Far from it. This is about understanding. It's about seeing how these deep-seated patterns form, how our brains learn survival tactics long before we even have the words to describe them. And here is the most important part: how awareness can transform that inherited weakness into a conscious, intentional strength. So, if your father struggled to express his own emotions, maybe he was often distant, stoic, or even explosive. Your brain likely learned that suppressing your own feelings was the safest thing to do. You learn to constantly scan the room, read the micro-expressions, and look for signs of approval or disapproval, instead of learning to trust your own inner compass. It's a smart adaptation, but later in life, that learned silence can feel like a profound weakness, leaving you feeling small and unheard, even when you're the only one in the room. Then there's the powerful concept of learned helplessness. Psychology explains that when our efforts repeatedly lead to nothing, when we try and fail over and over again, our brain starts to conserve energy by simply disengaging. It learns that trying is pointless. So if, as a child, promises were often made and then broken, or if support always felt conditional, like you had to earn it, your motivation circuits might hesitate today. Does this sound familiar? You start a new project with a burst of energy and excitement, but then you stall. You hit a wall. It's not because you lack discipline or drive. It's because your brain, on a very deep level, remembers the sting of disappointment. It remembers what it felt like to have the rug pulled out from under you. And so, it tries to protect you from experiencing that pain again by holding you back. You aren't lazy. You're just incredibly cautious, in ways that once made perfect sense for your survival. And let's talk about that inner critic. For so many of us, that critical voice in our head sounds suspiciously like our father's. Cognitive schemas are the mental frameworks our brains build to make sense of the world. They store repeated messages as fundamental truths. So, if you grew up hearing constant comparisons to others, if your efforts were often dismissed, or if you were always under pressure to be better, to be more, your self-talk today might mirror that script automatically. And to the brain, familiarity equals safety, even when that safety is painful. Masculinity norms can deepen this entire loop, especially for men. They surface in other ways as a constant hum of anxiety, a sudden burst of anger, or as a profound sense of numbness, a feeling of being disconnected from yourself and the world. You might feel weak for feeling too much, or you might feel weak for feeling nothing at all. You provide the consistency, the validation, and the firm, loving boundaries that you needed back then. It's the act of pausing to name a feeling instead of ignoring it. It's about keeping the small promises you make to yourself, rebuilding that inner trust. It is about choosing to open up to safe people who have earned the right to hear your story. These small acts slowly, but surely, teach your nervous system a new truth. That strength can coexist with softness, that you can be both powerful and vulnerable. This process isn't a betrayal of your father or your family. It's an evolution beyond their limits. It's about honoring the lessons learned while consciously choosing a different path for yourself. So, if you feel parts of yourself are fragile, if you feel that unexplained weakness, it doesn't mean you were doomed by your past. It means you were an intelligent adapter. You learned to survive. And now, you are ready to update the software. This is where understanding replaces shame, where personal responsibility replaces blame, and where compassion, for yourself and for the child you once were, becomes the powerful leverage that finally creates lasting change. You were shaped by your past, but you are not finished. You are the architect of who you are becoming. If any of this resonated with you, just sit with that feeling for a moment. Let it sink in, and maybe share this with someone you know who needs permission to stop hating themselves for struggles they did not create. Healing always begins with awareness.